Today's episode is brought to you by DeSanto Propane. DeSanto Propane is 4 generations strong as a trustworthy family-owned business with unmatched customer service. Go online at DeSantoPropane.com for more info or call toll-free at 1-800-752-4574. Since 1937, the difference has been DeSanto Propane. Today we continue our series previewing local elections across the Finger Lakes by catching up with one of the candidates running for Geneva City Council. Antonio Gomez-Pedro joins me via Zoom. Antonio, thanks so much for taking the time today.
Well, thanks, Josh, for having me.
Let's start with the easy question. Why are you running for City Council?
That's a long question right there. I mean, it's I could probably spend a lot of time doing this one here, but I migrated to this country in 1995, fleeing the guerrilla war from Guatemala, not knowing where that was going to take me, and I ended up in upstate. So I've been in the area almost 28 years since 1995. Was adopted into this area with the local farms, one of the biggest local farms in this area, and then moved out to a different organic farm, and then bought a house here in Geneva. And so I got a lot invested into the city of Geneva. Number one, I bought my first house, which I currently own here on 65 Monroe. Number two, I raised a family. Brought my wife from Guatemala, and so we started a family. And we raised 3 daughters, Kaylin, Evelyn, and Hadassah. I have a graduate from FLCC. I have a junior in high school, and I have a sophomore in high school. So I got a lot invested into the city of Geneva. Number one, after that, I jumped out of the workforce and I started my own business, and it has grown to be quite a business here in the area of the Finger Lakes, which is called AG Creative Touch. Or you can go on Google and find it as GenevaHandyman.com. So that would be us. But so I got a lot invested into our community, and the first goal was just to how can I make Geneva better? When I ran for the first time, which I lost against my opponent in 2019. And so a lot of people can find out about who I am and why I ran. One of the things is I've been called to the duty of service because this country has given me so much to when I arrived here in 1995. And I was adopted, and also I was adopted into this community in Geneva, and so I consider Geneva my home, and I consider the country where I come from my second home. Only when I visit, but so if you ask that question, why am I running? Seeing the things that are going on in Geneva, and also the Latino population that has grown here in Geneva, and there hasn't been no representation for us, number one. Number two, I want to be that bridge between the Latino community and businesses around local farms and here in Geneva, which we have. We have been a bridge between the law enforcement, the language barrier. We've been able to do some site counsel in the middle, and working now with the high school. We started a group called the Latino Parents to be, have accountability here in the city for students, teachers, and parents. So the reason why I'm running is because seeing how City Council has been, for the past 4 years, we have been, I ran the first time because I want the Latino community to be part of the decision making, number one. And then looking at the city council, what happened, these 4 years, where we have become like the laughingstock of the neighbor towns, and everything that's been in the news. It's been just anything that comes from our city, and I think we are better than that. And I think I can try to bridge that closeness, that unity among, because I do business with with all kinds of uh, people here in the city of Geneva.
Yeah. When you campaign and you're talking to folks in the city, what are the biggest issues that you're hearing from them that they're worried about on the day to day?
Well, taxes. The taxes, nobody wants to pay more than they have to.
Yeah.
And I agree with them. Number one, we have to make sure that whoever is in office, whether it's me or somebody else, it's somebody who's doing his homework, somebody who has some common sense when it comes to decision making, and also have some business experience. So the number one thing that people talk to me about is how taxes are so high here in Geneva. I just met with one of the constituents in the area, and they mentioned to me that they were going to put the house on the market the next day when I stopped at the home. That we're going to have a house opening just because their taxes are so high, and well, mine went up too, and so that burden. I was just talking to a single mother with a family, and 2 children, and then she's just struggling because the taxes are high, and so that's the number one thing that they want to. They want whoever gets on city council to address and to work on it, and not just promises and just leave it at for another 4 years. And that has been ever since I ran the last time, which is it's an issue that there's 2 things that we could do. Number one, we need to increase the tax base. Number 2, we had to cut services. So where do you start here? Nobody wants their services cut, and I think we need to work on it, increase the tax base. And so, in Geneva, it's only, and I know a lot of the other candidates that have been on your show, on FLX One, the Geneva, only 60% of the people that live here, of the properties, are off the tax roll. 40% pay here, and so we need to find ways how we can increase those other properties that are out there. Like when I ran the first time, try to tackle those zombie homes that are out there that we can get them to pay more. So that's the number one thing. The other thing that I heard that they were talking about, the unification, and the other thing was safety and some common sense that's why I put that in there, because when it's all said and done, we need to be able to sit down as mature citizens of this community, of this neighborhood, and just focus on the needs of our community. And what are those needs? So the city of Geneva just hired a economic developer, and so we need to exploit his expertise and try to sit down with him. If elected, I will sit down with him monthly, because I'm in and about remodeling some of those houses that I said that when I ran, and that's how my business took off, because I saw some of those opportunities. So what I did is I just went and knocked the doors and then just give them my car, and just and that's how I landed some of those contracts. And we've been since 2022 and 2023. We've been focusing in remodeling on Genesee Street, where there's been a lot of work going on with the mudslide and the drain issue. We had to take care of some of those issues too. So we need to, with a new economic developer, we need to sit down with him, and I would do an approach with him and just kind of see where is he at every month. Ask him, what's he doing, and how we can, assist him to be able to, and bring some more, some of that, increase that tax base and lighten the burden for the community.
You mentioned zombie homes, and you're actually not the first candidate to mention zombie homes to me. Is that, do you think, the easiest or fastest way for the city to make some positive ground on not only the tax issue, but also the housing issue, where the lack of housing right now in the city exists?
Yeah, some of those will bring some money to the tax base, but there's also properties like the the other thing that we need to look into is just make sure that we protect like the businesses that we have here, like the Guardian Glass, Henkel, and then try to invest into Micron, the new company coming up in Syracuse, and see if we can be part of that money to try to bring some of those businesses here in the city of Geneva, and we can be able to benefit and bring some more into the tax base. The other thing is to try to market the Geneva Agritech. That's why that facility on preemption was put in there for a reason. So when it's a small business that wants to start, I started my business as a part-time basis, and I saw the need. There's a lot of opportunities here. We just need to be able to have vision for and tackle those. And some of my in my platform, you can look at it was written in there that even if I had to do the services lower, when I remodel, because my vision started out the elderly, focus on the elderly here in the community, especially those elderly people that live here, that they've been here longer in Geneva, but they used to be handymen. They used to do their own things at home, but now they're aged that they can't climb on the ladder, clean the gutters. I come and do that. They need to power wash their the siding and power wash their decks and stuff. They don't do it anymore, like cleaning up the yard and stuff like that. So that started up like that, just like a part-time, and it just grew because there's a need, and we just need someone with a fresh ideas to bring this into to the table, and just not just bring it, but also push it forward, so we can bring some tax to the tax base.
Absolutely. Whether we're talking about police, fire, or EMS, they are all challenging because A, they're essential, and B, expensive to maintain for small cities like Geneva. How would you like to see City Council approach these over the next 4 years so that the services can be maintained, but not at crazy cost to taxpayers?
Well, the other thing that I said is increase the tax basis on the taxes, but also cut cost. So ultimately, the taxpayers had to make a decision on what do you want as far as the services that we need, that we have. Are you willing to pay the extra money? I'm gonna do my own, give you my own opinion. I tried to pay for services that I don't want to do, like number one, the DPW, collecting the leaves and the brush out of your home. This is something that I don't want to do. I don't mind paying. That's me. But then some other people, you want to cut costs, but you're not going to have the services. And the police and the firefighters, we can go back and do what Phelps is doing in other towns, that they use the sheriffs. And when you have an emergency for a police responding, it'll be probably half an hour to 45 minutes before they get there. So we have the safety. To me is number one. I don't think I would want to focus on raise the tax, not raise the tax base, but try to get some money into the tax base, to try to bring and try to exploit some of those areas, like the businesses that we have, like the OEO. I think that's what there is on Genesee Street, the OEO, the buildings that we need to work with the economic developer to see what ways we can bring that to to be able to start making more money and bring taxes to the base, to the tax base. But as far as the Geneva, that's one thing I noticed that I focus, and I'm pro law enforcement. Okay, if I'm elected, we need firefighters, we need those first responders, and experience. My wife had an incident, when I was at home, and they were here and they responded immediately. And so I don't know how much is life cost to you, how much your loved ones are important to you. So those things to me are priceless. When it comes, but then we got to go back and then think about, how much can we afford? But the other thing that I noticed is how the law enforcement board demoralized, with this police review board, and that's that to me. Nobody wants to come to a work place where you're being looked upon, when you are being micromanaged. And to me, of course, I would sit down with the police chief and just ask him questions. What else? It's a city council member in the city. Our job is like a toolbox. It's to provide those tools that they need so they can do it more efficiently, but also provide the resources. And sometimes I felt that they were under assault when they doing their job. They feel like they were not valued, and to me, it's not fair. Our job is to always to value them, regardless whether we want to have a police force, but they still need to be valued as individuals. I know that they are public servants. We are public servants, and they are here to do a service, and they're here to keep order, and that's number one. I grew up without a father, so in my house, the law was my mother. All right. And so I was taught to respect law enforcement, and I never had any issue with them, as long as when they approach you and you say, "How you doing, officer? How are things going?" Never had an issue. I was a bridge between the language barrier, and so I would, if elected, I would work closely with, and I think that they're watching, that selection very closely, because of the previous city council that made it hard for them to do their work. And I think, and that's why some of them had left Geneva.
Yeah. You mentioned brush pickup as one example of the types of services that the city is providing. Heavy rain and flooding has obviously raised a lot of concerns among residents for just in terms of residential flooding, basements flooding, that sort of thing. Street flooding, we saw that this past summer. Obviously, that infrastructure is always expensive. What do you think city council should do, or how should city council approach these summertime infrastructure issues where streets are flooding and sometimes basements are too?
It's an approach that has to be not the Geneva cannot take this by itself. This is something that has to be. It's a multi-million-dollar operation that's going on. That has to be approached by the county and state. And also we need to be able to have the towns to help in some of those, because we are providing some of it, I believe water, the sewage. And so they started that work over on preemption, and that caused some of the problem because we have an infrastructure that is old. And so I had it written down here that about the infrastructure. Yeah. We have to make sure that when we focus on the infrastructure here in Geneva, we have to make sure that we do it on a face that looking towards the future. make sure that we are in the cutting edge technology. So just look ahead. I'm in preventive maintenance. That's my niche. And so if I'm gonna do something, I gotta make sure I'm gonna spend the money that I'm not gonna have to worry about for a long time.
Yeah.
And so we need to look for the infrastructure here, especially the drain, the sewage, the drains, with a long future. And number two, we had to do it in a way that is simple. Simple, not like something that would be cost effective, but not like what they did over in 5 and 20 over here on next to the lake. That they instead of making something to flow easier, they tighten it down, and so they cut the flow in there. But also, instead of growing, the idea was to put flowers, and now it's creating a bunch of broadleaf weeds in brushes and all that. So when you do that stuff, and if you think about you want to do some gardening, the first thing you do, as I do landscaping, you lay plastic. I'm experienced farmer, and on the side of on the conventional, so I know how to use chemicals. I do have I had a license for the state of New York to apply chemicals, but also I went on to become an expert on organic farming. So I know how to grow things without having weeds in there. So the first thing you do is just lay a plastic barrier underneath so you don't grow any weeds. And so we had that 5 and 20 just looked like you were driving through a field. And so make it simple. The other thing is you need to make sure they include the county, the state, find grants, fundings, that they would be able to come and do a research, what we need to do to have a proper flowing of the drain system.
Makes sense. Last question here for you. What's your elevator pitch to voters? Why should they choose you on election day?
Well, number one, I would say that I'm here. I represent the diversity that Geneva has. I represent the minority. I've been underrepresented by any city council. They talk about diversity, they talk about the minority, but when they come, my last opponent, he talked about, diversity, but when he was in city council, I didn't see it there. There was no representation. Even though I ran and we ran, we had a good friendship, but he could have reached across and then he could have said, "Hey, what can we do to get this community better?" No, not even a phone call, none of that. And this is so. Why the voters would choose me? I'm experienced. I'm a toolbox of experience when it comes to managing big farm, not just about 8 minutes away, not just one but two, but also experience in business. I know how to balance a sheet. I know how to do budgeting. I know how to spend within my means. I don't spend what I don't have, and I think city council needs to run this business as a business in itself. And the other thing, I have a lot invested into this community. Everything that I do every day is to beautify my community, and I'm a community guy. I'm approachable. I'll be able to work on both sides of the aisle. I talk to anybody. I leave the politics aside, but also I treat the need and the root of the. I'm gonna be working on the root of the problem, and work with anybody that has a good idea. If the other side has a better idea, I'll go with that. Just because at the end, of the day, we need to do what's best for the city.
Antonio, appreciate the time today. Thanks so much for taking it.
Well, thanks for this time.
That'll do it for this edition of FLX Today. If you'd like to hear more conversations like this one, check out the show on your favorite podcast platform or subscribe to the FingerLakes1.com YouTube channel. Have a great day, and we'll see you next time.